Welcome to TypeScript FM, the friendly podcast for TypeScript developers where we bring you news, updates, and interviews from the community with plenty of tomfoolery sprinkled in. I'm your host, Kamran Ayub, and I'm joined by my co-host and best bud, Eric Onerheim. Together, we're the two TypeScript fools. Welcome to the show. Hey, this is future Kamran here, just butting in. I want to apologize in advance for Eric's audio for the majority of the episode. Later on it gets cleaned up, but at first I think he was using a different microphone, and it doesn't sound great, so apologize for that. But hopefully, we'll get it fixed next time, do a mic check. Just wanted to let you know. Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. It's news of the week of May 12th.
That's right. So things are going on this week. Microsoft Build officially kicks off today, actually. So after this recording, I'm going to be watching the keynote while I do some work. And then you are going to be traveling to NDC Oslo, which is also this week. When does that start?
It starts, well, for me, it starts tomorrow, but it actually starts on Wednesday.
Okay.
Because
cool.
I'm flying from Minnesota to Oslo, which is 7 hours ahead of here. So I will lose a day. So I will land in Oslo Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
So I will just skip over Monday here.
Nice.
I'll land Tuesday afternoon.
You're time traveling.
Yeah. And then, well, the neat thing coming back is I almost lose no time because it's like, I'm chasing the sun on the way back.
Yep.
Which is pretty slick.
Do you use, remember I told you about that app? I think it's called Time Shifter. You basically put in your source and destination, and it gives you a agenda. It's kind of like an agenda. It's basically a timeline of when you should take a nap, when you should have coffee, so that you minimize jet lag.
I need to do that.
It is free. It's free to use for like a few flights or something like that. So,
well, that's all I need it for. Is I only fly this much time zone like once a year. Like it's either I'm going west very far, like I'm going to Hawaii, or I'm going to Norway, and both kind of hurt the same amount of time. And if you are going to be in Oslo this week, hit me up. I'm on the Discord, the Excalibur Discord. You can send me a note there, or you can send an email to feedback@typescript.fm. I will see it immediately.
You could probably tag Eric on the NDC Oslo Slack as well, don't you think?
Yes, I am also logged into the NDC.
And go attend his talk. Learn about JavaScript performance.
Yep, I have a ton of content. I actually will probably have to cut some. So come talk to me afterwards if you have a specific performance question. I have a lot of examples about how to make things fast.
Nice. Speaking of build, this past week was the Mastra build hackathon. And so I think I mentioned it before, but Mastra is a TypeScript agent framework. So if you want to build AI agents with primitives, Mastra provides those with a TypeScript SDK. And they've got like a server so that you can host it if you want to on the Mastra cloud. Or you can also just call into the agents with your own server, like a custom server. So I put together a video where I showcased some of my work in progress for the agent that I'm building for Keep Track of My Games, because I'm a solopreneur, right? So I don't have a team. And so when my site goes down, inevitably it goes down during the night. It can already restart a VM, so I can actually just tell it I can restart the database server. So it's pretty cool, but you can check out the video to sort of see what that architecture looks like. I'm building it with Slack so that I can just control it all with Slack and natural language conversation.
That's pretty cool. Like the future of chat ops, I think, has a bright future using things like this. And the neat thing is with tools, you can be more assured that it's not going to do something awful because the tool provides the deterministic safeguard.
Yep, it does. And then Mastra also provides a suspend resume workflow support. Like I built in human in the loop approvals. So any type of mutation that happens comes with a Slack approval. So it builds the Slack UI to like have an approve button, and that approve button resumes the workflow to actually call the tool. So it's totally protected. It won't execute any kind of mutation without me actually physically pressing a button. So that's really nice.
Yeah, no, that's super cool.
Cool.
This week in the indie game space, we had the University of Wisconsin Stout game dev students present their capstone projects, and I'll have a link to that. There was a lot of really cool projects, and this year there was a lot of convergent evolution on couch co-op, which I am a fan of, and it kind of dried up there in COVID for obvious reasons. But now a lot of the games are like really awesome and really cool couch co-op games, and a few of them will be at the playtest event this Wednesday in Minneapolis. Sadly, I will not be there, but you can play some of their games.
I love how UW Stout is becoming the video game school, because my cousin graduated from UW Stout, worked at Activision, and now is working as an animator. But she went through the UW Stout program for learning graphic design, video game design.
Awesome.
We have a correction to make from last week's show on Node 24. We misspoke about the permission model, and Marco...
We made an oopsie.
We did make an oopsie. Marco, who is great and friend of the show, pointed out that we got the permission model wrong. And on further rereading, we totally whiffed. We were thrown by an example that had the word restricted in it, but it was a directory that we were restricting the reads to. So it is, in fact, like Deno, it is an allow list rather than a block list, and you allow the directories that you can read and write to on the command line.
Yes, and I realized this as well after we recorded, because I was finalizing all the examples to share, and I realized that as I was reading through the docs, I could say like restrict read access or write access to this folder, and I was like, oh, I think maybe we misspoke. So yeah, you can definitely do that. So you should go check it out. But thank you so much, Marco, for pointing that out. TypeScript FM is sponsored by Excalibur.js, the friendly TypeScript game engine for the web. Like many of you, I got into computers because I loved video games and dreamed of making one, but game development always felt a bit intimidating. Instead, I built a career in web development, though that dream of making games never really went away. Then I met Eric, who showed me I could use my HTML, CSS, and JavaScript skills to create games with just a bit of game design knowledge and the right engine. Excalibur.js makes game development approachable, offering everything you need to build 2D web games. Arcade physics, sprites, animations, input support, and integrations with tools like Tiled and Asprite. It's beginner-friendly, yet flexible enough to grow with you. Our team has published 10 games using Excalibur, all written in TypeScript. If you're a web developer looking to dip your toes into game dev or sharpen your TypeScript skills, give Excalibur.js a try at excaliburjs.com. Click the big tutorial button to start building your first game, Excalibur, a Flappy Bird clone. After that, join our friendly Discord community of web developers who love to help each other and share game dev tips. Okay, why don't we get to some of the ecosystem news? Kind of starting off on a low note, aren't we? With last week's Microsoft layoffs. So apparently it was a 3% haircut, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have a huge company, that is a lot of people. That's almost 6,000 employees that were impacted. And it included a lot of amazing people that we know personally. And in the TypeScript ecosystem, unfortunately, the team was impacted. Listeners probably know Ron Buckton. He was on the TypeScript team, and he worked at Microsoft for over 18 years. But he's been recently mentioned on the podcast because he's been championing the enums in JS TC39 proposal. So this is like really unfortunate, and I'm glad that his posts on X got some attention. I think on X it had over 5 million views, probably at this point. And a lot of people from the community, were lending their support and chiming in, and we'll link to the Blue Sky thread too, so if you want to leave some of your thoughts, I think that's definitely a good idea. I think since we're the TypeScript podcast, we should probably kind of celebrate a lot of Ron's achievements as a TypeScript team member. So I checked, and according to the official TC39 proposals site, Ron has championed 15 TC39 proposals. That's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. He's been huge for TypeScript and JavaScript. And if you're hiring, you better snatch him up because he is a talented individual.
Yes. So I think from us on the podcast, thank you so much, Ron, for all of your hard work. And Microsoft definitely lost an asset. So hopefully we have you in our thoughts, and we are confident that you'll be able to land on your feet. So the other thing I wanted just to mention, because obviously we know Ron from his work in the JavaScript, TypeScript ecosystem, but the other thing I wanted to point out was that he also has a open source repository for an OBS remote. Now, me and Eric are familiar with OBS because that is the software that we use to record camera footage. And so Ron built a TypeScript app that runs on your tablet and communicates with OBS through WebSockets so that you can remotely control it. So if you are streaming or you're doing something like that where you need to control OBS and you're not exactly looking at your desk or whatever, and you just want a touch screen, you can use his app to do that. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. If you're like, I've heard of the Stream Deck, excuse me, two different devices, the Stream Deck, but you want to do it with whatever device you got laying around, go check it out.
That's right. Cool. What do we have in the Deno ecosystem? There was a blog post.
Yeah, almost prophetically, they released a update on Deno Fresh over at Deno Land, and they're focusing on what they're working on. And TLDR, it'll be out late Q3, likely September. So that's coming up soon. So that's something that we can look forward to. And part of the problem why it was delayed here, and we didn't really see a lot of updates to Fresh, was they were working on changing this to match the new Deno 2.0 JSR patterns that they want to incorporate into Fresh. So this next version will introduce kind of Express HANA-like APIs, which people know and love, true async components, a plugin system for creating middleware, which is very important, especially if you're folks that need like custom auth schemes, or you need to do whatever you need to do for whatever framework you're doing.
Yep. And that allows you to add custom routes too. So that's pretty nice. And they're going to share, a lot more about what Fresh 2.0 will bring, but it is actually powering the Deno Docs and Deno Prod site right now. So a lot of the delay was just due to those foundational changes. So it was pretty quiet in Fresh, but a lot of the latest Deno minor releases were driven by them trying to bring 2.0 stable. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you can play with it now in the alpha channel. So
yes.
you can pull the code down right now and start playing around with it.
Yep, the link to the blog post describes what you need to do if you want to use it right now. We've got some TSGo news, so if you like to play with the latest bits, this is what came in last week. I think the big thing is the concurrent LSP with cancellation support. So previously, when we first covered TSGo, the LSP was not concurrent. So now the LSP, the language server protocol server, supports asynchronous handling and parallel execution of requests. So they introduced like a checker pool to pool the different type checkers. It also adds that cancellation support that we talked about before. It brings that into the LSP. So anyway, this should enable better performance and responsiveness now. So inside of like VS Code, which is one of the LSP clients.
One thing that I wanted to try, I was talking about this with you yesterday. I want to see if I can get TSGo now, because I built it from source, working with my NeoVim to run my LSP in NeoVim, because this would be really, really awesome to have in my NeoVim. And I would definitely be, walking the knife edge, working with, really alpha bits, but it would be really cool.
Well, I think as a service to our community and being able to talk about it on the podcast, you should do it, and then you should write a blog post on it so we can link to it.
Yeah, it would definitely be in the category of things I shouldn't be working on, but I want to work on.
Yep, absolutely. Some other minor things, they finished porting JSX completions. So the completions work is like a big overarching like task or like epic. So there's just a lot of parts to it. And so this is a continuation of that work. And so now if you are typing within, I think, JSX, you'll now get completions in that. So that's cool. The other thing that will affect you if you have been using TSGo is that, you know, in order to do a build, you have to do TSGo and then TSC is the subcommand. But now, I think it was Jake Bailey merged a PR so that that's all top level now. So all the commands that you used to, or all the flags and stuff that you used to pass to TSC are now at the top level. And then some of the flags that used to be at the top level that were like API and LSP commands, those are now, they have flag versions. So the one thing that he mentions is that this does undo the version flag. So if you were using -- version to check the version, that no longer works exactly the same, but he has a workaround in order to get the commit if you need to. But they'll, go back and fix it. Maybe he said maybe they'll do like a detailed version or extended version flag or something like that to get that information. Cool. That's pretty much it, I felt like, for the ecosystem news. So why don't we move on to some of the community highlights, which we have quite a few.
We have a lot.
Yeah. So the community's been busy, which is pretty sweet. This one was a tip that I saw from kramer.run on Blue Sky. He has a thread that sort of explains a weird quirk in the string.split API with JavaScript. So here's a pop quiz, Eric. What is the return type of string.split?
I would say string array.
Yes, you are correct. However, there's a weird quirk with it. So in pretty much all circumstances, if you split a string, the 0th index will always contain at least one string. Okay? Because even if it can't split it, it will just return the string in the 0th index, okay? But Kramer points out a weird quirk where if you try to split an empty string with an empty delimiter, then it just returns an empty array. But in all other cases, it returns at least one string. So this is why we can't have nice things, because if it wasn't for this JavaScript quirk, then we could actually strongly type the fact that the 0th index could be a string. But unfortunately, we can't. So that's why we always have to check .length whenever we split a string.
Okay.
So it's not so much as a tip as more of like isn't that interesting? The more you know.
Yeah, I honestly would not have thought that was a thing.
Yeah, because we were just playing with this in the playground, and if you split an empty string with a space delimiter, it actually does return a string in the 0th index, doesn't it?
Yeah, it returns the empty string back at you.
Yeah, so it returns the empty string back at you. But if you have an empty delimiter, then it just returns an empty array.
Yeah, that's super unintuitive.
Yeah. So anyway, good old JavaScript. Oh, speaking of oldie but a goodie, this was posted in 2023, but I just wanted to link to a YouTube video called Just Enough TypeScript by Shawn Wildermuth. And this was in response to SvelteKit changing from TypeScript back to regular JavaScript for their code base. So he sort of goes through how to make your TypeScript less complex to try to keep things simple, which I'm always a big fan of. So you should just go check that out if you want some tips about that. And then you probably listened to our Node 24 deep dive. If you haven't, you probably should. But I knew after we recorded, I was like, I feel like we missed something, and we did. So one of the things with Node 24, if you're using TypeScript, is that all your imports need to change because you have to import using the file name .ts. So if you're migrating an existing code base over to Node 24 in TypeScript or from JavaScript to TypeScript, CommonJS, you don't need a file name when you do an import, but with ESM and TypeScript and Node 24, you have to. Now, the nice thing is that there is a code mod to migrate them. And so on Blue Sky, jacobjingleheimer.dev, which is a fantastic handle, by the way, he posted about this being a pain point, trying to update all those imports. So for sure, you want to go take a look at the code mod. I think it's in the Node userland code mods repo. So we mentioned it previously on a previous episode when we talked about Node 23.6, but just a good reminder, don't forget that you're going to need to do that.
Yeah, and this is kind of the way that things are going with ESM is to include the file name as a suffix. This just simplifies the import process because then it doesn't have to guess at what you meant.
Yes, I believe if I remember correctly, it used to search in about 18 locations, and now it doesn't need to do that anymore, so it speeds that up quite a bit. All right, on Reddit, there was some cool discussions. So last time we talked about a Reddit thread that was TypeScript gotchas. This time, one of the hot threads was, what was the hardest part of learning TypeScript? Before I share what other people said, Eric, what was the hardest part of learning TypeScript for you, if you can?
Yeah, so with Excalibur, we started using TypeScript right at the beginning, and I think the hardest part was the tsconfig, and that was a problem that evolved over time, because it started pretty simple, but then it started to get spicy over time. And there was a great post on the thread that kind of captures my feelings about it, which is love me a game of let's try which module resolution works today, which made me cackle. And I feel that in my bones because it definitely got complicated there. And I wasn't sure which ones was right for us. And I think a lot of people run into that. It's like, okay, well, what combination of these module settings do I need to flip in order to do the thing I want to do?
Yeah, I saw that you included a link here, which I'll put in the show notes for Matt Pocock's blog post on tsconfig cheat sheet. And then I also remember in a previous episode we mentioned Dr. Axel Duality had a tsconfig cheat sheet as well. So I think that's nice. And then just as another reminder, Josh Goldberg, friend of the show, has the Create TypeScript app, CTA. So you can also use that, and that comes with everything kind of out of the box configured, and he has versions for like an app versus like a library and stuff.
Yeah. And for modern TypeScript, it is much simpler. There's basically only one tsconfig you really need, unless you're doing something weird.
Yep. So anyway, I would agree that tsconfig, it was probably one of the hardest parts. Now, the community, the top voted comments, the top three, the first one is discriminated unions. Then generics, which I would agree is, I think, just talking to other people like on my team that were new to TypeScript, generics were definitely the big thing that was hard to learn. If you weren't coming from like, a language like Java or C#, which already had generics. And then the other thing I thought was interesting was the structural versus nominal typing system. And so remember that in TypeScript, it's structural typing. So that means the types are checked against the fields recursively to see if the structure of the type matches. Whereas a nominal typing system, which would be like in C#, is when they refer to the same type. So the way that I learned this is someone once called it duck typing. So if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. That's how the TypeScript type system works.
Yeah, and for a long time, there was no way to do like nominal typing in TypeScript. But with branded types, if you need like a named type that is by name, you can use branded types as a way to do that. And we'll include a link to Josh Goldberg's article on the subject. It's probably one of the more compelling documents on the subject.
Yep, for sure. Cool. Another just a tip from Reddit was if you find yourself inside of VS Code or whatever IDE that you have, if you are constantly needing to restart the TypeScript server or like eslint, you can actually pass in a config to update the memory limit for both of those. So that might be helpful.
Awesome. I had a couple of community highlights to shout out, and the first one is from Chris 47s, who's a friend. He wrote a blog post about type assertions, kind of explaining what they're doing and what they're not doing. And it's just the ask keyword is, trust me, bro. This is the TypeScript. Don't tell me I'm wrong.
Yep.
And
nice.
He talks about a better way to handle unknowns in any. So he goes into detail there. Another one that was really interesting that came across my desk was from YouTuber TypedRocks. And this was the secret this parameter. So when you need to type the caller of your function and you need to have like, I'm going to be making my own custom array method, or I need to know the context of the caller, how to capture the this in a generic way. And it's a synthetic parameter provided by TypeScript that you can reference. And it's like the first parameter would be this colon this, and you can get at that information.
Okay. So, and I remember I've had to do this before. This is a nice, by the way, this is a nice secret of the handbook, is to type the this parameter. But now my next question is, and maybe you know this or maybe you don't know this, is that compatible with type stripping? Like if I enable erasable syntax only, can I still do that?
Oh yeah, no, this is completely synthetic, and this is completely type only. So this is a thing that you can do just in the type system to know about your caller. And it's useful in certain array methods when you need to know about, like, for example, if you're doing array.flatten, you need to know about the array that you were called on. So that's an example of where if you want typings, you need to grab the this context.
Okay, cool.
Another really cool one from the community was from Matt Pocock, just dropped a video, 6 TypeScript tips to turn you into a wizard.
Woohoo!
And this was a great video. It's like really terse and to the point, but it's got like 6 really good things that you should probably take a look at if you're just getting into TypeScript, or if you know TypeScript and you just need a refresher. He talks about a key versus values, pick, omit versus extract and include, prettify, how to do loose autocomplete, which is pretty slick. We use this. It's a trick to get TypeScript to give you autocomplete, but also let you type in any string you want. So
yes,
which is super useful, especially if you're doing events. And then also mapped types, which is mega.
Nice. Yeah. So you should definitely go check that video out. Fantastic. I came across some cool stuff. It's part of the community for sure, but it's also a cool thing. If you have ever been in a situation where you're using a .env file, like most of us do with our Node apps, but you also want to enforce that those variable names, match on your process.env. You want to basically strongly type and enforce your .env file. You can do that. And that's one of the nice little TypeScript tips because you can declare them in a declarations file. And so anytime you have to update them or change them, you can just do a refactor rename so that you don't have to be like searching around your code base for all the places where you use your .env variables. So I'll link to a Blue Sky thread by Aaron McAdam where he sort of suggests that as a tip. The other thing that I came across, been thinking about my brother's wedding and bachelor party stuff and like what we could do. And you're probably already familiar with like escape rooms, which we've done several times before. But this is an outdoor escape room. So you do it outside. And it's called Escape the City. And they actually have, over 50 different separate editions, like from all the major cities. Most of them, I think, in the U.S., but I think maybe a couple outside the U.S. But for example, they have like a Minneapolis edition. And then we're going to be going to Colorado and visiting Denver in the summer. So I proposed to my wife, what if we got the Denver edition so that we could explore the downtown? That would be kind of cool. So you basically get like, you order it, you get the box. It comes with a lock box in it with like a actual lock. And in order to unlock it, you got to go collect clues from a defined area within the city. And it's usually about a 2-mile walk total. And they said it usually takes between 1.5 to 3 hours long. So you can do it with a group. You could do it by yourself. I think you definitely probably want to do it with a group. But you can eat and drink while you do it. So it sounds really fun. And then the other thing is that my son has been getting into pirate sea shanties, and so he's created a playlist. But I'll be honest, one of the artists that are actually pretty dang good that he's been listening to that I kind of like too is they're called Sail North. And if you imagine pirate sea shanties meet pop and rock, it's pretty good. And I would say that it's also pretty kid-friendly. I would say maybe ages like 7 and above, because they do say the HE double hockey sticks word. But, I mean, he knows that already, and he knows not to say it. But otherwise, he really enjoys singing that and listening to these songs over and over and over again, driving us nuts. So
That's classic kid behavior.
Yes, yep.
Yeah, my daughter will want us to sing the same lullaby over and over again. So she'll do the sign language for more over and over. She'll go more.
Mhm.
And so I think I've sang Baby Beluga at least 5 times in a row.
Yes. So if you like the Wellerman, then you'll probably like Sail North.
I wonder if there's a Baby Beluga sea shanty.
I don't know.
All right, so I've got some cool stuff that came across my desk this week. There was a website, and I don't know where it came across my desk, but it's called open5e.com, and this is a really cool way to get at your Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition content. One maybe goofiness about it is you need to go into the top left and select your sources that you want to get at information. So you can say, oh, okay, we want only Open5e, open source content, or you want to get Wizards of the Coast, Cobalt Press, EN Publishing, Green Ronin, yada, yada, yada. But you can select particular sources to get your open source 5th edition content. So if you're a D&D nerd, this might be a thing for you.
That's cool. I mean, we play D&D together, and we use D&D Beyond. If people haven't heard of that, I would definitely recommend it. Especially if you're DM, because you can create character sheets and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. It definitely takes out a lot of the number crunching that would be required to do D&D. So that if that's important to you, then I would definitely take a look at it. Another thing that's cool that came across my desk is, did you know that you can use JavaScript in the Godot game engine? Yes. So there is a module called Godot.js, and I'll include a link to it. But it adds support for TypeScript and JavaScript in Godot 4X. And it does it by embedding V8, QuickJS, JavaScript core /browsers into Godot. So as far as I can tell, you have your pick of things. And depending on your platform, you might need to pick a different JavaScript engine. Like QuickJS, for example, doesn't have a JIT, which is sometimes required by the platform that you're going to for security reasons. But if you don't have that, you can go ahead and pick V8 or JavaScript core, which might be required for you if you're on iOS.
Okay. That sounds neat.
Super cool.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got for today. And since Eric is going to be busy this week with NDC, there probably will not be a deep dive on Thursday. So this is it for this week. So we'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. This is Kamran. I just wanted to thank you for listening to the show, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to see the show notes, you can check your podcast player or go to typescript.fm, where you'll see a list of all the episodes. If you enjoyed the show, tell your friends, and please rate it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, because that's how the show grows and gets discovered by more people. If you want to suggest news or a project that should be covered, or just want to say hi, email us at feedback@typescript.fm. If you want to follow us on social, we're both active on Blue Sky. I'm at kamronigus.com, and Eric is at ericonerheim.com. You can also follow the show directly at typescript.fm.